AKA my hubby and assistant in life. I don't really know what that means exactly, but it sounds
I was a human being once.
And I'm the most nervous ever, not only because we're doing slideshow for the first time, but also having a moderator be somebody that knows everything about you is terrifying, especially when they are completely unpredictable. And I don't know what's going to happen, so hopefully this will go smoothly.
It works.
Is it me?
It's possible.
Can you admit?
No.
Okay.
Tell the story of the bear.
Oh, okay. So I'll tell the story of why we have a bear slide up there while Scott gets unchoked. Those of you who follow me on social media know that there's a lot of bear references on there. And the origin story of that is I do live in the Pacific Northwest. I live out in the country, in the woods, in an old house on the lake. And I was having a Zoom meeting with a very high-profile group of people, producers and executives and stuff. We were talking about a project.
I wanted her to write a movie, and it took a month to get all these executives on the phone at the same time.
That's true. Okay. So I'm looking out. We have like these huge windows that look out the side of where the lake is, and I'm looking out there with the computer screen facing me, and all the Zoom people are on the screen, and we're talking, and we're being all professional, and everything's going great. And I look up, and my eyes are like this, and the first thing I say is, Scott, there's a bear! And there was this bear trying to get over the fence and onto the patio.
Into our house.
Yeah, into the house. And, you know, they're pretty smart. They can sometimes work those sliding doors and stuff. And so I'm kind of, and I'm not scared of bears normally, but I'm kind of freaking out at this point in front of all these Hollywood executives. And
they didn't believe her. They thought it was
they're like, oh, she's just trolling us.
So she does this move.
There's a bear. And so anyway, that story kind of got spread around. And so now everyone thinks I'm the bear trying to break into my own house. I don't know why, but anyway, I have lots of bear stories.
The plus ending of that story is the bear moved into a tree that actually touches our house. So every time we would go outside, he would want snacks.
Yeah, he was scary. And then one other time, we were kayaking, and Scott's getting close to the shore, and I'm kind of hanging back, and I look, and I'm like, oh, I'm like very calm, and he's just, you know, not listening to me. I'm like, bear. And in my mind, I'm thinking, that bear can swim a lot faster than Scott can kayak out of the way. How do I get him to back out of the way, not panic, not flop over into the water and be bear food?
Now let me ask, if your loved one is being pursued by a bear, is your first response go, oh? Did you know that maybe you should? No. Okay.
I told you I'm not afraid of bears. I thought he should be.
This is true. She was born on the farm and she used to chase bears off with a broom, and it freaks our son out. It's not smart. She's going to end up like Leonardo DiCaprio one day. So
thank you.
So here's the thing. We normally these are a little bit intimate, and we talk about how she got to be in comics and how she went from being a hairdresser, all these things. But actually, she's just got a ton of stuff to actually talk about, and so we thought it'd be more fun to just scooch over most of that stuff and get into some more current stuff. What do you think? Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. And if you hang around till the end, there's some cool stuff that maybe we'll get to see if any of this is still working at that point. So I'll give the short bio. Hairdresser, married up. That's true. And then she wrote weird stuff on the internet. People liked the weird stuff on the internet. And pretty soon, editors were saying, hey, come write weird stuff for us. And she started with The Simpsons. And she wrote a few things for CrossGen, and then she got a call from, you should tell this.
I said we weren't telling
I'm going to tell this one part, it's very funny. Joe Quesada called her and said, hey, we're looking for a writer to make Deadpool funny again. The book's about to be canceled. except he said it in an accent so thick you can barely understand. And she said, oh, I love Deadpool, he's my favorite. How many Deadpool comics have you read?
0 plus 0.
She's a liar and a deceitful person.
So anyway, so here we are, about 700 comics and various projects later. That's the bio.
Name them all.
No.
All right, so that sounds good to me. So I'm just going to ask some questions, and I think I know most of the answers, but I think I have some stumpers. And then we're going to ask anybody, they've got a photo microphone. If you have a question for her, we can bring it up, and then towards the end, we're going to go through some cool stuff that nobody has seen, nobody. And for the last year and a half or so, some of these things have been percolating, and she hasn't been able to tell anybody. So this is it. So it's really exciting to be here.
And this is my first con since big con since pre-pandemic. And so I thought, oh, I'm not going to know how to do this anymore. And the first thing that when we walked across the street from the hotel, got through the security gate for the con, and I see a beautiful woman cosplaying Gambit. And I'm like, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm writing Uncanny X-Men now. So I was like, this is really going to set the tone and be a great convention, and it has been.
Is that the one with Cyborg?
Jed McKay has Cyborg.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, he doesn't? I thought he did. Oh, Cyborg. I'm thinking Cyclops.
Oh, this is going to be a legend. So,
See how many more things like this drew up.
it was just cute that the very first person we met seemed to
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of fun. So, so I have a question just to start with. You were writing comics, and at one point I remember you were writing like 5 comics a month, 2 good ones.
You guys have my back, right?
It just seems like it's time. And you were writing just a ton of comics, and then you kind of stopped writing comics for a while. Did you stop writing? What happened? Did you go back to hairdressing? What happened?
Well, what happened was, a little bit before the pandemic started, I was starting to do some video game writing. And then the pandemic happened, and like, I always wanted to do, like, write for video games, maybe do some television writing or film writing, you know, different, kind of stretch out a little bit, try some different things. But I lived, like I said, in the woods in Oregon, and I just, you know, being in a writer's room just wasn't going to happen. But when the pandemic happened and everybody went to Zoom writers' rooms, then I was able to be in writer's room, and I got asked to do quite a few things. So I worked on some AAA video games, and some video games that are like doing some brand new things that we haven't seen before. And some of those were like 6 hours a day in front of a computer screen, working with numerous other writers, and I just really didn't have the energy left after a day like that to work on much else. So I did that, oh, except for I did write a prose novel during that time. So between all of that, that took the time.
But the key was that you've been asked to do all that stuff for years,
Yeah.
but you've always turned it down because comics are like your first love thing, and then...
Well, after you.
I'm probably like 5th.
Until this panel.
Until this panel. It's hurtful. Okay, so, but you've been asked a lot of times, and it seems like you kind of resisted that for a long time, and then all of a sudden you decided to try these things. But I also want to say that a lot of it is still the same characters, right?
Yes, and some consulting jobs came up, consulting on characters that I've written in the past that were moving into other mediums, and they had a lot of questions about developing the character for a different medium. So I did quite a bit of that, which has been a blast. There are certain characters like Wonder Woman that I can never spend too much time talking about.
We're going to hear about that on Monday, so yeah. But I just think it's really cool. But for a while it was a big change, because I remember you used to write murder scenes in Secret Six, and you'd be wearing pajamas and having a cup of tea. And now, for 6 months, every day you had to get up and early in the morning and be in front of the computer.
Yeah. What he's saying is not wear pajamas.
But that's it. On the bottom, you can still wear it. Pro tip. That's incredible. Okay, so
Anyway, so what it did for me as a writer is I feel like I learned a lot, and I have a larger toolbox now, and some of it I'm bringing back into some of the comic book writing that I'm doing, so that's going to show up here shortly as we get rolling into these new projects.
well, I know you were missing this. For a long time, it's been many years of every time she opens a previews, she's got books in there. Then I remember you got previews and you were like, not in this. It's so weird.
Something's missing.
But I know she really missed comics, and I missed you writing comics because I like it. So there you go. So how about this then? What made you come back?
Well, being asked to write Uncanny X-Men is a pretty big, pretty big is what he calls himself the conductor of the X-Books. And I worked with him on the variants and a few other projects at Marvel and really enjoy working with him. And he has the X office now, so he approached me and asked, and super honored and love what they're doing. And just, that was the thing that, it's 18 issues for the first year, so it's big. It's a big project, and that's kind of what I wanted.
Also, the other thing is you write a comic, you're done in a month, but so you write a novel, you've got to, it's like having a turtle as a pet. But yeah, it does seem like you came back with kind of vengeance, so it's cool.
Oh, I'm still writing a novel.
Yeah, she's writing a second novel. That's correct. Okay, so here's the other thing. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about yesterday's panel. Yesterday she was on a panel, a writer's panel, and again, she hasn't been doing this. It's so amazing to see your faces and see the cosplayers, and everybody's having fun and they're making comics. It reminds you why cons are awesome. But yesterday she was on her first panel in quite a long time, and it was a writer's panel with, no kidding, Marv Wolfman, Steve Englehart, Terry Kavanaugh, David Mack, Steve Orlando, and I feel like I'm forgetting.
You're forgetting Cecil Castellucci.
Cecil Castellucci. Yeah, I think that's everybody. But, I mean, that's quite a lineup there, the creator of the new Teen Titans and the, it's just...
It was an excellent panel.
It really was, but how...
I could have listened to the other writers all day, yeah.
This is one of the reasons I moderated. She has a hard time talking about the cool things that happen because it gets overwhelmed a little bit. So I talk about them and then I ask. So how did that feel to be up there with like the writers that you loved when you started reading comics?
It feels very surreal. You kind of have like this little argument with yourself because on the one hand, these are my influences, reading comics as a young person growing up and looking at the writing and what they accomplish and how they develop characters and all these things. These are the people who influence me that I admire. On the other hand, I'm supposed to be up there acting like I belong there, and you kind of feel like you don't, even though you've written 700 comics, so it's like this little battle inside yourself that you try not to let show, because it feels very strange to be sitting next to your idol, which Marv Wolfman definitely is an idol of mine, so it feels weird to be sitting there and it's supposed to feel like you're equal when you don't really feel that way.
Well, they were very great.
Yeah, everybody was great and talented, had interesting things to say, and I could have listened to all of them forever. Which is really fun because we don't get to really talk about the craft of writing that much with each other. So we all really enjoyed it.
Cool. Okay, so I want to move on to a little bit about your Red Sonja novel. So now, I'm excited about this because actually, I was never a big Red Sonja fan, and can you tell the story of how you ended up on Red Sonja and why you took the book? The original.
Okay, does everyone know who the character Red Sonja is?
Yay! For some reason, she's extremely popular when cosplaying.
So, I knew who Red Sonja was, growing up. I'd seen the film in the 80s and such, but not really a fan. And when I was approached and asked if I was interested in writing the Red Sonja comic, I said, no, thank you, that's nice of you, but I just don't really feel that that's something that I want to do. And I was having a conversation with my mom a little bit later and said, oh, they asked me to write Red Sonja, but I'm going to turn it down. And she just flipped out. She was like, what? You cannot turn that down. She's my favorite. You have to write her. And I never knew any of this. And I'm like, no, I just really don't want to.
This is challenging.
I have other things I can do. And she says, no, you have to do it for me. And this became a campaign for weeks of texts and phone calls.
It's true, she was calling all the time. You have to write her.
Yeah, and so, you know, I was like, Mom, why do you like her so much? And because to me, she was an airbrushed image on the side of a stoner van. That's kind of what I thought of her character. And I'm like, Mom, why do you like her so much? And she said, because she's a redhead, which my mom's a redhead also. She's a redhead who kicks ass. And there weren't that many of those, you know, when she was growing up.
That's a pretty good element.
Yeah, and I'm like, damn it. Now I have to write Red Sonja for my mom. So I called and I said, okay, I feel like I could write 6 issues of Red Sonja. That would be great. So they're like, okay, great. And we got all that going. And I sat down to write Red Sonja, and I absolutely fell in love with writing her. I found what I liked about her, combined with what my mom liked about her. And really, you know, I had other projects going, and I'd say, I'm just going to sit down and write like a couple pages of the Red Sonja, and then get back to my other stuff. And I'd look up 12 pages later and be, whoa, you know, and just really was having a good time writing her. So 6 issues turned into 12, that turned into 18, that turned into huge crossovers, that turned into consulting on the first round of the film, and then turned into an entire prose novel. So I have finished the first one, which will come out in November, and this coming November, and then I'm working on the second one, and it is so fun, y'all. It's called Consumed.
Yeah, the funny thing about this is it actually made a little bit of an issue on the cover because it looks like it's saying Red Sonja consumed Gail Simone.
That was the first proofs that came in. I was like, I need to change this up. Although I might be okay with that, I don't know.
Would have been so much worse the other way around. That's just a good, okay, I don't know. So tell me a little bit about the prose, the change from going, is it a huge deal or?
Well, it's a lot of work, y'all. If you have never written a novel or you want to write a novel, just know it's a lot of work. But what I could do with it that I absolutely loved, and why I'm continuing on with the second one, is I feel like after writing Red Sonja this much, her and I are besties now. But with a novel, I can really get to know her and really help the audience get to know her. So I can write scenes where, you know, what it feels like, her feet feel like inside her boots while she walks through water. Or when she puts a knife through someone's flesh. I can really, or when she feels like, you know, having a little quality time with somebody, I can, you know, get deeper into that stuff. And really, she's really a fully fleshed character by the end of this first novel, for sure. And she gets to have all kinds of relationships and fights, and you know, and we see what it's like to live her nomadic type lifestyle, and it's just been such an amazing awakening for me as a writer to be able to get that deep into a character.
But you missed comics.
Yeah, of course I miss comics. Comics is, you know, my first love of writing and what I started writing after the internet columns. So, but they're different. It's still storytelling, but they're different. Comic book writing is very condensed storytelling, which I enjoy. I enjoy trying to say as much as I can in as little space as I can. It's a different challenge than what a novel is.
Okay, this is going to sound like crass commercialism, because it is. But the thing is that after quite a few years of the Secret Six not being a going concern anymore, they're doing 2 omnibuses of the Secret Six. Yeah. My favorite superhero book that you've done, even though they're not really superheroes, and you know, I've seen the design work on it, and I've never seen a collection that you've been part of that is that gorgeous. I
Yeah,
mean,
these editions, I've seen the full one of the first edition, are really, they took a lot of care. There's a lot of additional material. Everybody that worked on these stories is involved with an additional piece where we get to see, you know, the beginnings of the designs and how they evolved and just all kinds of things. And it really is the most gorgeous on the best of any of them.
So it's Nicola Scott, Dale Eaglesham, Brad Walker, and I'm missing, and who else?
Jim Calfiore.
Yeah, and it's character sketches, there's a full script in it. It's just the most amazing book. It's beautiful. I'm not sure when it comes out. I think a couple months.
Yeah, I think it's a couple months because I think they've announced it. So usually that means it's 2 or 3 months down the road.
Amazon said June.
I'm sorry?
June.
Amazon.com said June.
Well, you're the expert.
You would know, Mr. Rayco.
You know, this is a true story. We went to a con, and we had back-to-back cons, but we had time to go home. And somebody had carved a perfect mask like that with the wig attached. And we got home, it was amazing, we put it on the couch, and then we went away. And then we came back and there was a power outage, so the lights were off. That was on the couch on top of a pile of clothes. I'm telling you, that is not nice to come home to. That is,
You're welcome.
You're creepy. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about X-Men right now. What do you think about that? So, okay, who's your favorite X-Men?
Nightcrawler.
Jamie Madrox.
I think you guys should fight. What about, who's surprised that that guy said Wolverine? That's done. See that coming. So,
I've seen the best X-Men cosplayers.
So this is the truth. I've been with my lovely bride since just out of high school, and I've never seen her so happy to be writing comics as she is right now. I know that there's a lot of scary stuff in the world. I know that there's a lot of difficulty going out the door even sometimes, but you know, comics have been something that have made you happy since you were a kid, and I've never seen you happier making comics than right now. So what is it about the X-Men that appeals to you? And by the way, we should say it, Uncanny X-Men, in 700 issues, you're the first solo female writer of Uncanny. Who did a co-writing thing.
Yes, no.
We love her.
Anyway, I don't even think about that part of it that much, but it's just the fact that, you know, I get to write Uncanny X-Men now. And I've been a fan of the X-Men since I was really young, a huge fan of the Claremont days. And the thing that appeals to me about the X-Men, and what I think appeals to most people who like them, is that there's something inside each one of them that's completely different from anyone else in the world, and they feel a little bit alien, misunderstood, judged all the time, all those things that we feel as non-mutant humans. And I think it's very relatable to us as a society all over the world. And just that part right there is what appeals to me, because I can do so much with that. And you know, I have my favorites, and when they approached me about writing it, they said, well, just pick your favorites and you know, to start with, and that's what we'll go with. And if they're not already being used somewhere else. So I'm like, they're all my favorite, what do I do? And so anyway, what it narrowed down to is the core ones of the new Uncanny X-Men that I'm writing are Rogue, Gambit, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Jubilee. And you get to see David Marquez, who's doing the art on the book. You get to see my scripting and his art in the Free Comic Book Day, the one portion that has Jubilee. It's from the Ashes. And it's gorgeous. They made a trailer out of it for
Have you guys seen the trailer? It's really cool.
for the announcement in Austin. And so if you haven't seen it, please go and look at it from the Ashes Free Comic Book Day trailer. And it's really quite cool.
Now, how did you pick? There's 7. Our son says X-Men is a little bit like Pokemon. You know,
You gotta catch them all.
who's that? Oh, that's Squirtle. You know, Squirtle. How did I not know? But how did you? Did you pick the fiercest or the coolest power?
Well, that's what when I sat down to think about it, like, do I pick who looks really cool? Do I decide on who, you know, has the best powers? Or, you know, how do I pick this? And then I just decided I'm just gonna pick the most kissable ones. so that's what I did. And the cool thing about this era of X-Men that's coming up starting in July is that this isn't so cool. The X-Men are grieving, they're kind of shattered after everything that goes on with Krakoa. They're scattered globally. And so each of the X-Men books and any of the spin-offs will take place in a different area with a different tone. And that appeals to me a lot because being from, you know, small town in the Pacific Northwest, I get kind of bored of everything being in New York City or LA. So, no offense, LA, I love you.
No, definite offense. Go to hell, LA. You bastard.
So, Jed who's writing X-Men, Jed McKay, their book takes place in Alaska. And it's really cool and has a really cool vibe, completely different from Eve's book, which takes place in Chicago and has Kitty Pryde, or Kate as she's known now, as the lead of that side. She's definitely grieving, wants nothing to do with being an X-Man. You know, she can't deny being a mutant, but she can deny being an X-Man. And that book is so good, y'all. I know it's going to be a TV series. So check it out when you have a chance. And then mine, Uncanny X-Men, takes place in New Orleans, a little outside of, it takes place in Louisiana, a little outside New Orleans, and it has a Southern Gothic horror vibe. So it's going to be the creepiest, naughtiest of the X books. And
She's already getting those notes. We're not sure we can do this thing. Would you always get it?
yeah, but then they let me do this thing, and that's okay.
When she did Plastic Man, they said, you know, we love this book. It's really funny. You can't do any of these things.
So anyway, they end up in Louisiana because Gambit takes them there. And he takes them to a house where he spent a lot of time in his youth.
There's more.
Oh yeah, there is more.
But
And
it's fun. The fun of it is, Rogue and Gambit seem like, from your script, seem like a natural fit in that area. They already have lived there, I guess.
Yeah.
But then you add Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Jubilee, and it's just such a.
And then there's going to be 4 new young mutants that show up at the store. So we're not really showing too much of them yet, but it's really cool because they make a danger room out in the forest out of hay bales and twigs and logs and things, which is something that I can't wait to see.
So you said that the cool thing about the New Mutants is they represent people whose disability or
And the new mutants that I've created are based on different things that we're seeing today that are hidden disabilities, but this is a mutation that they have that gives them these powers that they end up with.
a lot of people are suffering and we don't see it.
Yeah. It's just not, it's not obvious, they don't pop claws that you can see. So.
Wait,
No offense.
they don't. What's the point?
There's the point. They have other things they pop.
So we got permission to show one page of David Marquez's #1 issue of Uncanny X-Men. It's not colored, but literally nobody outside of Marvel has seen this, and I just think it's kind of giving you an idea of how beautiful. Actually before trouble starts, and I mean, the thing that makes me happy is normally when she's on a book, she has like a favorite character. She has a, like Jeanette was your favorite in Secret Six for a long time, I remember, and Domino probably in the Hot Shots. But you
Yeah.
told me with this book,
Yeah, everyone's my favorite while I'm writing them. That's one reason that's making me so happy. Is it's just like I get to write these characters, they're amazing. And they become my instant favorite until I go on to write the scene with the next one. But I cannot say enough about David Marquez's art. You know, you always work with an artist in comics if you don't draw, which I certainly do not. And you come across a few. Nicholas Scott for me is one, David Baldion, Dale Eaglesham, the few others where you send them the script, they understand the script, they get all the emotional content of it, and they make it so much better than it was when they got it. And David is one of those. And, you know, I can ask him for really grand emotional things and grand action pieces, or I can ask him for really subtle emotional stuff. And I really encourage you to go look at that trailer so you can see what he's doing on this book.
you know, one of the things, even here, we've been hearing a lot several times. I've heard people come up and say that they were a little mystified by how many X-Men books there are and how many X-Men characters. I mean, we heard that a lot, even from some pros who used to write X-Men. And now Tom says he doesn't want that. He wants each book to stand on its own.
Yes, each book is standing on its own. You do not have to have, you know, a million years of continuity to understand what's going on. You can jump on these first issues at any point and know what's going on. And, you know, I'm reading the scripts, so I know that's true. I'm not just saying it.
You know, this reminded me a little bit of an interesting thing that happened. We were at Niagara Falls convention, and it was one of the first cons that we were at with Chris Claremont at the same time. We'd never spoken with him, really. It's interesting because the very first panel she was on, she'd never been to a convention, and she was invited to San Diego by Marvel when she was writing Deadpool. And we arrived late because of the plane, and they literally grabbed her. And we're from a town with, you know, 7,000 people. And where we live, there's not even that many. So they grabbed her and they sat her down between Peter David and Chris Claremont, just straight from the door, sitting between these two guys. And she's
About feeling out of place.
Anyway, the response was lovely, but she never got to talk to Chris. And then at Niagara Falls, they went into the back room, and he essentially told her, we didn't realize it, and this was years ago, but he sat down and explained how he wrote the X-Men, and essentially he told her how to write the X-Men 6 years ago. I think that's just really, it was very gracious and remarkable. Okay, so that's that. I think it's very cool. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and ask if anybody has any questions for a minute, and then we're going to show some images.
And while you guys are getting lined up with the microphone, I have something that I wanted to say real quick that I don't really talk about. I don't even think I've ever talked about it in an interview or on a panel. I hear people in the industry say all the time that it takes them about 4 days or 6 days or whatever to write a comic book. And I think that's great. And you know, maybe once they sit down and script, that's great, but this is actually what it takes to write a comic book. Number one, springboard. Then you research. Then you outline. Then you get editor's notes. Then you write the script. Then you get artist notes and editor's notes. Then you do revisions. Then you get coloring and lettering notes. Then you write the solicit for the thing. Then you have to come up with a cover idea. Then you have to do promotion. And I'm leaving out a bunch of steps in there. So when you're writing multiple books per month, you have this stuff going on all the time. You're weaving in and out of these different processes constantly. So if someone says it takes them 4 days to write a script, I'm going to argue.
Oh, this is fabulous. So look at this gentleman's shirt. We love this. Okay.
Perfect.
It's for you, Gail.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
But actually, I'm going to ask you about stuff that you did in another universe. So, in a recent issue of Nightwing, they actually the characters were using the term fridge, you know, like, so that exists in the DC universe.
It exists in all the universes. It was in
Well,
a Deadpool movie, for crying out loud.
So I guess what is your reaction to that? That like, you know, they're saying it in the Deadpool movie and like Nightwing and Barbara Gordon are actually like using this word now in continuity.
I think, you know, it's kind of sad on the one hand that there ever had to be a term called, he's talking about women in refrigerators and fridging female characters. But it really is a term that's grown larger than me. It's used everywhere. I've been on panels with people who start talking about it and explaining it to me because they don't even know that I created it. And so I'm just used to it now, and it's weird, but it has changed the industries for the better in a lot of ways. I don't think we're seeing as much of it, and when we do see things happen to marginalized characters, hopefully they're not done just to further someone else's plot.
And her point was never to bash men. Her point was to say, is this weird that we keep seeing this trope over and over and over again?
It's kind of lazy writing, to be honest, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hi, so Gambit has been having a moment in the last 2 weeks, thanks in large part to the X-Men cartoon.
Is it the shirt?
But, yeah. So obviously I don't know if you've been watching the show or grew up watching the X-Men 90s cartoon. Curious if you are watching it or not watching it so it doesn't influence you, or do you think it will, or you bring in stuff from the show in the comic, specifically the crop top?
I watched a little bit of it, but I have my own idea of who I think Gambit is and what to add to him currently. So even if I watch someone else's version, it's probably not going to influence mine at this point too much, just because I've already spent a lot of time thinking about him.
She's just trying to figure
Sorry.
out how to get him
Yeah, I spent a lot
pantless.
of time thinking about him.
Yeah, crop top, that's nice, but what about no pants? Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I do like Gambit.
Gail, I know that you enjoy writing Red Sonja so much, and I read your Wonder Woman comics that you write. Do you like writing Red Sonja better or writing Wonder Woman the most?
You dared to ask that question. I love writing both of them. They're so different, you know, to write them. They're both very powerful, strong female characters, but Wonder Woman is a whole different, you know, realm than Red Sonja. But what I love about Red Sonja is that you can write her in the mud and the blood and, you know, get really down to earth with her. Wonder Woman's not so much a down-to-earth character, but she is a character full of compassion and empathy and caring for humanity, and when something bad happens and someone can't protect themselves, she's in there to do the job, and I like writing that as well. So I don't know, it depends on the mood I'm in.
Well, I think Wonder Woman's your best work ever, so.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed writing her quite a lot. I'm
Okay.
still writing her, actually, just not the comic.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
Anyway, women in refrigerators, what it means is, okay, I'm sorry. We actually kind of have to do a little bit of a lightning round if we can keep the questions a little short. So.
Howdy, what's it like to revolutionize these loser characters, i.e. Catman?
Oh,
That's my favorite thing. I love a character that's broken down, beaten down, and, you know, has to rebuild and come up out of the, you know, the whatever life brought them and got them to that low point, and overcome it and move on with life. And I love writing that.
it really is her favorite
So
thing.
give me the losers every time.
She used to get offered all these icon books and stuff, Green Lantern and all these things, and she would turn them down for the Atom or for, you know, somebody that needed more love, which I think is
Yeah, that's what interests me, is just bringing something new and you know, watching a character go on a journey that makes them stronger.
okay. It really has to be like the ground. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, quick question. Do you feel like you prefer working with already established characters or creating your own series? Kind of that distinction between inventing
Both.
characters.
I really do like both.
Okay.
He's really happy writing these characters.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for using one of the preeminent titles in the industry to talk about invisible illnesses, which is a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. So I'm even more excited hearing that for your work. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that.
And quick question. I'm curious who's the most loserish X-Men that you would like to write?
Cyclops, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Don't tell Jed I said that. I didn't say it though, he said it, right?
Power is sunglasses. I mean, come on.
Hi, I'm a huge Secret Six fan. I started reading them in elementary school.
What?
Yeah.
I hope I didn't ruin you.
My question is, were there any Secret Six like stuff that you never got to do that you really wanted?
I wouldn't say specifically, but it is a book and an idea of found family that I could write for years. I really could find a lot of subjects and a lot of themes and stuff to write around that.
She always said if Scandal and Catman and Deadshot are in it, it's the Secret Six, no matter how many there are,
Yeah.
or no matter who else is in it. So that's a great question. Thank you. Hello, there's Jim Porter.
God, yes. Going back about 20 years, there's a book you did that I still grieve the loss of. Is there any chance ever on God's green earth that Agent X will ever come back?
I don't think so, but
Would you write it if it did?
She's had him in Domino a couple times.
yeah, true. He is part of the X-verse. I don't know. We'll see. I have many questions, but instead,
So do we.
I embarrass myself on recording.
What?
I'm just going to embarrass myself
Okay.
on recording as usual.
Okay.
Did not have a speech prepared for this. Probably should have, but I do really appreciate how you and Nicholas Scott took Catman and just said, you know what? There's nothing shameful about being a weird naked Tarzan. Exactly. My thoughts exactly. And he's bisexual. Arguably the most.
I say there probably is something shameful about being a weird naked Tarzan. Conventional. Thank you so much, and of course, they're cosplaying Ragdoll, one of our favorite weirdos. So here's some stuff that we wanted to discuss a little bit. We're just going to go ahead and talk about these, and we did this. Okay, so the first thing is, not everybody in the US might know this. I didn't really know this, but in the UK, for a long time, they didn't buy their comics in comic book stores. They bought them weekly in kind of newsprint magazines in newsstands. And they had tons of genres. They had amazing genres. It wasn't just superheroes. They obviously know about Judge Dredd. Some might know about some of the comic strips they did, like Beano. But they also had a lot of comics that were aimed at females, and they sold very, very well. So there was a book that sold that had 100 issues, right? Am I right? That was aimed at females, but it turned out that the actual readership was almost half and half, because the boyfriends, the brothers, the husbands would steal the books and read them. So probably because the women in it were beautiful and high fashion and the stories were scary. But anyway, this is something that she is so excited about. I can't hardly stand it. It's a book called Misty. And she's bringing it back. This is a book that was a huge thing in the 70s in the United Kingdom. Misty is this beautiful character on this cover.
Also, Tula Lotte cover. So absolutely stunning.
They got fantastic artists for the whole thing. But what it is Misty is who?
Misty is she narrates the stories basically. And in the past she would be like the narrator and then the story would happen. And when they were always like spooky stories, they didn't rely on gore for the scares and stuff. They were just spooky and as Scott said, the women had beautiful high fashion. It was sexy. But now I'm weaving her in and out through the stories. And so she's gonna be appearing doing some narration, you'll see some flashbacks, you'll see some different things about her character that we haven't ever seen before. And then, did we have a page of the art?
Yeah.
No, we do, okay, so yeah. This is what blew me away when I started getting the first art.
It's an anthology book, and it's reigniting this amazing character, but they've got 3 fantastic artists. This is Calero. I want to get these names right because they're new to us. Calero Borelli, who just has a fantastic eye. But this next person, Ali Fall, might be one of the most amazing artists we've ever worked with.
Wow.
His whole story is that. I mean, it's just...
These are just really gorgeous pages, and the stories are fun and scary and creepy, but not.
Yeah, it doesn't rely on gore. They're creepy with her sense of weirdness. They take place in different eras, and there's an interesting story woven in the background about Misty herself. It's just one of the most.
Yeah, and I'm excited to do another badass female character. Okay, we have to hurry. So.
Plus, she's a weirdo. Okay, and this is her dog. Rescue greyhound. We rescue greyhounds, and if you ever get a chance, they're the best dogs ever. Okay, so now here's the other thing. We watched a movie. So
I'm gonna set the scene.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we are sitting at home having a movie night, eating our popcorn. I'm drinking my Snapple. He's having his Diet Coke, and we're watching Rebel Moon. And I'm really digging it. It's a gorgeous movie. I do not care what other people say that this movie. It's a beautiful movie, and then the character Nemesis comes on screen, and I think, as I'm watching and watching, I think, this is the coolest character ever. I want to know more about her, and I kept thinking about that. I just really loved this female character. And then a couple weeks later, I get a phone call. Zack Snyder wants to talk to you about writing some Nemesis. She really needs a backstory, and so that's one of the things I'm going to be working on.
That is awesome. By the way,
Another badass female character, she is amazing.
I just want to say they're not lightsabers, they're heated metal. So
They have a whole story that's really cool.
Because it is the coolest, it's just the coolest thing ever, and weirdly, we're going to Zach's house to watch the movies on Thursday. It's just strange things. Okay, and then we have another thing. This is just incredibly exciting. This is her favorite book last year was a book by Patton Oswalt and Jordan Blum. You guys all know.
Minor Threats, right? You like Secret Six?
I think it's one of the best books in years. It's like Secret Six, but on various narcotics. It's about a D-list bunch of supervillains and the D-list superheroes who get in their way, and it's just a fantastic book. It's a favorite thing. If you've seen her talk about it on Twitter, she absolutely loves it. And they asked her to expand a story, to do a spin-off, to expand the story of one of the characters. And the amazing thing about this is that the guy is half crab. So
I get to expand the character of Crab Movie with an A-list artist that you are not going to believe when it gets announced.
yeah, this is the amazing thing about my wife is she would not be any happier if they offered her Batman. I know that
Still the weird girl from high school.
I would get the call, or she'd say, "Oh yeah, they offered me Batman. It's really neat. But what about this crab dude?" But yeah, it's an A-list artist. It's one of the 10 best probably working in, and when you find out who it is, you're gonna freak out. So that's incredibly exciting. And then there's some other stuff aside from these 4 things that we have been told we absolutely cannot talk about. And this is King Buttermilk.
It's threatening me if I talk about anything I'm not supposed to.
So we are not allowed to hint or tease at anything else under penalty of death. So, yeah, so that's what that is. So, anyway. I think that's pretty much it. We're so happy to have gotten to talk to you, and thank you so much. And so make sure that everywhere she's gone, she's walked through the halls, somebody comes up and says something lovely and kind, and when you do a lot of cons, you kind of take them for granted, I guess, but it's been a miracle how kind everybody's been. It means a lot to us. She has one more signing tomorrow, right?
Yes, I don't know, I asked her to look.
It's something. Right? Do you know?
1 p.m. 1 p.m. tomorrow.
This is Lorraine who's been wrangling us, and you can imagine how fun that is.
She knows how to try to keep me.
So we probably have time for one more or two more questions, a couple more questions. Does anybody have one?
Superman?
What?
Who's that?
I'll go.
There's one.
I don't see anything.
Go ahead.
I work in
Are you Laura Croft?
I am.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's Larry Croft.
Larry.
You can be Laura.
I don't care if you're Laura. It's fine.
So I actually do work in video games.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been curious about writing for comics. So when you said that you learned things from working for video games that you brought back to comics, I'm kind of curious if you could expand on what are some of those things that you learned from our industry.
You said the trees, she said the decision trees.
Yeah.
That you have alternate choices for where the story can go. They worked on one thing where every choice had 3 answers. So it was 12.
Yeah, and it's also not always written linearly, which is real different. Sometimes you feel like you're writing almost in a spiral. So it just kind of awoke in me to a little bit of other possibilities than just writing a linear, straight storyline.
Yeah. You think that's going to change your comic work? Because I'm a fan of your comic work.
I'm sure you'll see hints of it here and there, but I'm not sure where and when quite yet.
Well, awesome.
Wouldn't it have been funny if someone brought a bear to this panel and just think that?
The bear's already here.
You admitted it. Guys, thank you for everything. This was